Hey everybody, it's Chamber Matt, and today I have a presentation from the South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Fire Chief, Jeff Faucett, and he wants to talk a little bit about the upcoming bond measure that is coming up on the ballot. It's an important issue for the South Kitsap and for the fire district. So if you can go ahead and take a listen to this. If you have any questions, I'll post this information at the end, but you can give the chief a call at 360-871-2411. Or you can actually send them an email at jfaucett, that's JFAUCETT at skfr.org. So if you have any questions, give him a call, send him an email. He'll love to talk to you. Otherwise, go ahead and listen to the presentation. Thanks everybody, and have a great day.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chamber, and thank you everybody who's watching either online or the recording. I think I have it. I'm looking over at my other screen, so let's try this. Do you all see my screen there?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, we have a couple of people waiting, I see. So first I want to just thank everybody for this opportunity to share what is up and coming for South Kitsap Fire and Rescue, what we have going on, and all the fun things that are going on within the fire district. I'm excited as the new fire chief. Most of you probably recall Chief Wright, and if you haven't heard and are trying to figure out, wait, where's the Chief Wright? The Chief Wright is off in retirement and enjoying life as we would expect and as we would want. So back in March last year, he announced his retirement to the fire district, and that started a process of which the Board of Commissioners appointed me as the fire chief beginning July 1st. So I'm here, and as the year 2020 hit us, in no other way I hit the ground running. And so I took over in July, and we are in the middle of a great opportunity here for the community on this capital facilities bond. And so I want to take just a few minutes today to talk a little bit about that and what that means to each of us and us as citizens here in South Kitsap. First thing, I just want to talk a little bit about the fire district, because sometimes I think people don't really understand who we are and how big we are and what we do as an agency here in the south end of Kitsap County. We do cover 117 square miles. Our borders are pretty easy. It's Pierce County, it's Mason County, the city of Bremerton, and then the water to our east. Yesterday I said the water to the west, and everybody kind of looked at me. The water to our east out there at Rich Passage and all the way down to the Pierce County line, and of course around Beach Drive on the other side. So we have 117 square miles. We are neck and neck in size with Central Kitsap Fire and Rescue. Chief Oliver from Central Kitsap, we kind of banter back and forth as it probably is determined on whether the tide's in or out as to who's bigger. It's usually we're within a couple square miles of each other, but nonetheless, we cover 117 square miles. We in 2019 ran on 11,000 calls just in the south end of Kitsap County, and that is the most calls, the most 911 calls by any fire district in the county. And so we are a busy fire department. Currently, we have 103 full-time employees with about 30 volunteers. Of those 103 full-time employees, 81 of those are what we would call suppression, or what you would think of as firefighters, firefighter EMTs, captains, lieutenants, the people actually doing the 911 service. The other individuals that we have, about 22, are in support, whether it's our mechanics, our facility people, chief officers, training officers, those that keep the infrastructure, keep the 911 response moving. I think it's also important to note just here at the beginning that I've added to this little presentation is that we are a junior taxing district within the county. And so under RCW, we don't get any funds, any taxes from the county coffers, if you will. And so when you look at your tax statement, the numbers that go to the county coffers, those don't come to us. We don't get a bite of that. We're not like a city where the city fire departments, when there is a city fire department, all the money's pulled together and the police get a portion and the fire department gets a portion and public, the parks and rec and all those. We are a junior taxing district. We're governed by our Board of Commissioners. One of my commissioners is here with me this morning, Commissioner Pruse. We're governed by a board of 5 commissioners that are elected by the citizens, and our funding comes from two primary funds come to us through our tax levies, which is an EMS levy and a fire levy. And just like most junior taxing districts, those levies support the operations, which is the people of our organization, the people, the equipment that we have, making sure that we have fuel and all the upkeep of those, and the upkeep of the infrastructure. But anything beyond that for a junior taxing district, it really stretches us to have to look for what is another option if we're going to do big capital purchases or get big capital plans, such as we'll discuss this morning. So just want to make sure that everybody kind of heard that and understands that. I want to go a little bit of history. I don't want to dwell on this a lot, but we just want to talk about how we got to where we are in 2020. Back in 2014, we were coming out of the recession. Chief Wright took over as the fire chief, and he put us on a financial diet. We were deficit spending. We were in trouble. Our levies were not keeping up with the organization, and we were basically, as you can see, we were running month to month on our paychecks and not doing well. We took a very aggressive approach in 2014 and beyond, and involved the community. We got our people working with us, but we identified 3 main areas. First, we had to do some important things like we reduced our staffing from 84 firefighters down to 72, tried to cut some of the firefighters that we could to make the monthly payroll. And then we identified 3 main areas that we saw up and coming that had just been neglected over the many years in South Kitsap, and that was our apparatus, our equipment, and our facilities. And we were able to, in 2015, we were able to go out for a bond. If you recall that, we went out for a small capital bond of about $4.9 million, and that was to purchase a bunch of apparatus. We got a picture there of some of the fire engines. You probably see those floating around town with their big American flags on the front. But we got a 72% approval rating. That was to handle that first bite-sized chunk for the fire district. That was our apparatus and equipment. It met our immediate needs. We worked hard to make sure that we got that done and got it done quick. And we were excited about that. It met that first need, but we knew there was a bigger need coming in the future. And part of Chief Wright's plan was to make sure that these went in succession because just like apparatus was a big need, so is our facilities. And so we were able to show over time that not only can we get this project, get it done with the apparatus and equipment, but we're also able to show our citizens that we can be responsible with money, which we always have been, but I think sometimes you just need to overemphasize that. We made the promise or made the commitment to the citizens that if we were able to get that bond, that we would be ready to purchase equipment when the time came, not to come back out and ask for another bond for fire engines or ambulances. And I'm excited to say that that plan is in place. So part of that operating budget is putting money aside for future purchases. In fact, I'll be presenting next week to our citizen advisory group and the Board of Commissioners that time has come, and we've got it in our plan to purchase a new ambulance and a new air truck in 2021 with those reserve accounts that we've set aside every year to get us to the point that we're ready to do that. So we're excited about that, and things are going there. The next step of this process was our facility. You can see a couple of our fire stations, 3 of our fire stations there that these are just 3 of the ones that we are talking about. But our next big step was the facilities. As you know, you look around South Kitsap, our agency has changed. It's morphed over time. A lot of these fire stations that we picked up were donated by citizens. They were donated back in the 60s and maybe even the 70s. They were not built for 24-hour staffing. Many of them we've had to go in and retrofit to try and make it work and do the things that we're trying to do. And Matt and I were sitting out at the Burley station last week, and that's one of them that we need to upgrade. It was in fact, he was volunteering at one point out there, but that station, it wasn't designed to live in. The septic system, the water system, we've got a part of the part of the parking lot that's eroding away, and we had to take a really hard look. So during this last 6 years, we've been looking at our facilities and what does that look like? We know we need to address them, but what can we do to make that happen? What we've come up with is this facilities bond through a lot of strategic planning and a lot of processes that we went through, is to go out and ask the citizens to help us. We see the need that 3 of these fire stations need to be rebuilt from the ground up. We need to do seismic upgrades to 4 of our fire stations, and we also need to provide or rebuild, and not remodel because we've done that several times, but rebuild the public safety campus here at Fircrest Drive. Some people will ask, well, are you going to build the fire stations in the current locations? So Yukon Harbor and Bethel and out on Old Clifton. And the answer is no. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first reason is that, like I said, those properties were given to us. They're pretty small pieces of property. Both of those are around an acre. And in order to build a new modern day fire station, to get the apparatus space, the size that we need, the bedrooms that we need, the bathrooms that we need, the ADA accessibility that we need about 3 acres in order to build those fire stations. So even if we could tear those buildings down and rebuild them on the sites, with the environmental impacts and the setbacks and the wells and the septic systems and all that to put a structure of that size, we couldn't do it on those pieces of property at Bethel and Yukon Harbor. The other piece that we looked at, which is probably right, even though if we could put them out there, is important, but just as important is the locations of those fire stations. The fire district has changed, as we all know, and if we went back 40 or 50 years and looked at South Kitsap, it was a much different community. But as we've looked now where the building and where the people are buying property and where the growth is happening, and we forecast through our modeling and what we look at in the future, we know that we need to put stations in strategic locations. For us, currently, we have 12 fire stations, and 7 of those are staffed 24 hours a day. And our goal, our process, or what will happen here with the passage of Proposition 1 is not only will we build these 3 fire stations, we will be able to sell or surplus 3 of those buildings, but we're going to merge those buildings and we're going to staff 5 fire stations because they're going to be in better locations. So rather than being spread out all throughout the fire district, we're going to core up, is the term that we use here internally, and core up and go down to 5 fire stations, which is more efficient both on our response and on our overall capital with the infrastructure of the fire district. So we talked a little bit about that, the growth in the future. We want to combine and increase our staffing, and we want to invest in the future of our fire district for the citizens. The public safety complex, our campus, I talked a little bit about that. That is right here at headquarters. That is a building that houses all the infrastructure for South Kitsap. It's our supplies and inventory in the middle of a storm, whether it's a snowstorm, windstorm, tornado, because that never happens in Port Orchard. Those type of things. The Department Operations Center, many people don't recognize or might not realize that in those storms, when things get really super busy, the 911 center up in Bremerton cannot handle the sheer amount of volume of calls that comes through. So we actually, each fire department sets up its own operations center, and we manage all of those incidents from our own. And you want us to be ready to handle those calls. Right now, that operations center is an integral part of what we do. The new public safety campus will include a community meeting room, also our automotive and administrative services. So we've got that. The locations that we're looking at, one of the things that we've been really working hard on is making sure that we were prepared for the citizens and ready to go with Proposition 1. And so, as you can imagine, you can't just go and say, well, I just need 3 acres anywhere and call up a realtor because there's 3 acres all over. We need 3 acres that is in a strategic location on major thoroughfares. And that's tough to find in South Kitsap when you think about our community. Sure, we can go off into the cul-de-sacs, we can go down the side streets, but for us, all the turns, every turn costs seconds. And when you add multiple turns to get out of our area to get on the major thoroughfare, we could lose up to a minute of our response time. And in our world, that's not what we want to do when people need us right now. So we've been looking. We started this process about 3 years ago, looking for property that said, okay, if we could get Proposition 1 off the ground, where would we build these stations? And we started watching. So we're excited to say that we have some property. We have 3 pieces of property. One of them we already owned. I'll talk about that one in a minute. But first, Woods and Mile Hill. There's been a lot of talk on social media about what we're doing down there. Woods and Mile Hill, we've secured right now, well, it'll close this week, so I can say we've secured 3 spots. The PJ's Market at Woods and Mile Hill, the property just to the north of that, there's a little house that sits right behind that. We've secured that one. And then we've also secured the big property to the west of it. So that gives us about 3 acres right on that corner to be able to build a big fire station right there. That station is right center between the Yukon Harbor Fire Station and the Fircrest Fire Station. And so like we said, we're going to merge those things up and we'll put 4 people down in that fire station when we're there. We've also secured property down at Bethel and Mullinex, Bethel Burley and Mullinex, right near Spencer, or the Morrison Gravel access, if you will. We've got a big chunk of land that's sitting down there now that we will put, and that was right dead center between the Bethel station closer to Fred Meyer and the Bethel Burley station down towards Burley Olalla. And then the 3rd fire station is out on Old Clifton. This is property that we've owned for a long time, about 10, maybe 15 years. We got that through some work with the city of Port Orchard. And so we've already got that property. We didn't need to purchase that property, but we know that there's a lot of growth going out on that side of McCormick Woods, out on the Figley area, whether it's McCormick's, I think they're calling it McCormick West. That whole Old Clifton area is growing and will continue to grow. And so we know that the future need of a fire station up in that area to meet the demands of that is needed. And then the Fircrest Drive, where our public safety campus is. So, Matt, you alluded to this, the $1 million question: what does a bond like this cost to the citizens? And there's always a cost for that. This is a $39.5 million bond, and that bond we have planned out over 20 years. It's 17 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. For us, and this line right here, I want to take a little time on this. It's a net increase of $21 per year. And you're looking at that going 17 cents times, however, how did you come up with that on a $300,000 home? This is how we did that. Currently, the apparatus and equipment bond that we have is 10 cents per thousand. So on a $300,000 home, the citizens are currently paying $30 a year for that apparatus and equipment bond. And that bond expires or is paid off at the end of this year, December 31st of 2020. And so when we go into it, we're actually talking about a 7-cent net increase over the next 20 years when you combine it with those two. So for a house of $300,000, it's $51 per year total taxes, but an increase of $21 a year. And I know that that's a tough one to talk about, especially in a time like this. It's not easy. I am a citizen here in South Kitsap, and I pay these taxes as well. But this is one that we have really tried to look at, and how we can meet the needs of the citizens and not go overboard, not shoot for the moon and hope for it all. But we want to be very fiscally responsible. But we know that at a cost of $39.5 million, that it is just not, there's not a possible way for us to do it with the levies that we currently bring in, our operating money, to do this type of infrastructure work for the fire department. We have gone out, some people have asked us, you know, Chief, $39.5 million, 4 buildings plus some seismic upgrades, you're talking about 8 or 9, maybe 10 million per building. That seems like a lot. And I'm not a builder. I've never built my home. I've never been in commercial construction. And I know that does seem like a lot, but I can tell people that we have gone out and we have looked. We've gone around the state of Washington over the last 2 years, looked at different fire departments that have built fire stations for their community, and this is right in line. We're working with architects, we're working with other people that are good in this area, and we believe that this is the value of where we're at for these buildings. There was a post last night on Facebook of an individual who had gathered some information about other cities, the city of Bellevue, Kirkland, and some others, and the cost of their fire stations, which were much more than what we are actually asking for here. So we are trying to keep this where you saw a picture of the fire stations. We're trying to keep these right within what it looks like within South Kitsap. We don't want some big Taj Mahal, some big that just doesn't fit within the South Kitsap community. We are still in many aspects a small community, though growing, we're still a small community, and we want that feeling here. And we think that this is a worthwhile investment, but ultimately it's up to the citizens. And we're asking the citizens to consider this and see the vision of where we're going, how we got here, and what it could do for us in the future. With that, I know my commissioner is here online, and Jerry, Commissioner Pruitt, if you want to say anything, you can, and then Matt, I'll certainly open some questions for you if you like there.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, and I'd just like to say the chief has pretty well covered the issue that we have, and being in his position, he can't ask for your support or your vote. That's why he invites us to come along, because we legally can ask you that we need your help, and at this time, important that we pass this measure, because we're looking at these buildings are going to be around for about 50 years, and we're looking well into the future, and the need that the community needs, and we also need it. So vote for it. We'd appreciate it. And if you have any questions, the chief's sitting there waiting for your questions.
You're muted again, Matt.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, did you cover what's the plan for the station on Glenwood?
So the station on Glenwood, which is station 17 out there, it is open right now. We have 24-hour staffing. In fact, someone just asked, are they actually there, because they never see them? And I think that's because they're always gone. I ran some numbers. They've already ran almost 1,300 calls this year. So they're a pretty busy fire station out there. What we're looking at there, Amy, is first, Old Clifton would be the last fire station that we would build. So it would be about 4, maybe 5 years down the road, depending on how fast we can build these things. And there's a lot of conversation about what's happening in Gorst with the city of Bremerton and all the annexation that they're doing, and whether or not that fire station down there is needed. Between the Gorst fire station, the Glenwood fire station, and the Old Clifton fire station, they're going to be staffed. It's just what mechanism we do. And so with the Bethel station, we could see right now tentatively that the volunteers would take over the Glenwood station, and the career staff would move over to Old Clifton. But again, that's about 5 years out, and there's a lot that goes on between them. We'll know more about what the city of Bremerton is going to do down on the other end for us. So right now, we have no intention of closing it because it's an important, and they're busy. So.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Again, the objective here was really to record the chief's presentation so that we could make it available to we could make it available to the overall community and to our board. So looking forward to getting this out there, getting more comments, questions from the committee. I'm sure, Chief, if somebody wanted to contact you, you'd be open to a conversation. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, our website is filled with information. So www.skfr.org. But absolutely, I would love to sit down and in these days have virtual coffee, phone call, emails, whatever it is. So they could email me, jfaucett, F-A-U-C-E-T-T, @skfr.org, or call us at 360-871-2411, and I'll either answer or return the phone call. But yes, I'd love to sit down and talk with anybody. As you can imagine, Matt, we've had the opportunity and many times to go out in person and make these presentations. And this year, as you and I talked the other day, while I enjoyed the opportunity of Zoom and not being able to leave my office, I certainly miss that opportunity to get out there and see a lot of people. So it's going to take a lot of people sharing the word and passing around their neighbors about the facts on what is going on here and what we're trying to do. So.
All right, thank you, Chief. Yeah, I've been out. I've seen many of the stations that are in question, and I think it is time for a few upgrades. We joked about how, being built in the 60s, it's time for upgrades and getting old. And I know on this call, at least a few of us were built in the 60s, and we can concur that maybe yeah, a few upgrades on our part would be good too. So this is really what the community needs to do, and I look forward to getting feedback from the community. And if anybody has any questions, they can go ahead and reach out to the chief, reach out to the South Kitsap Fire and Rescue. They do have a Facebook page also. And it's a great opportunity to make South Kitsap a better place to live. So if anybody, if Victor, Don, Shane, Jerry, if you guys have any final words or final questions or anything like that, then I want to thank you, Chief, for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the invite. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Don, do you have a question?
No, I just said thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for coming. If you like this video, I encourage everybody to like it, to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I got to do that plug, I'm like, one of those I'm a YouTuber where it's subscribe and like our channel to get more exciting news about what's happening in Port Orchard. Thanks everybody, and I will see you guys later. Thanks for attending.